enterprise marketing management portfolio and my commerce portfolio and order management portfolio. And what we have done is we have built a team. This is a brand new team. We started with them in about September of last year that is building technical integrations directly with a variety of ISV partners. This is not a kind of a GSI story as much as it is a ISV story. So ISVs as diverse as Bloomreach, Invodo, Pluck, I could go on and on. There's NetFluid. I think we had 17 that we are working with. 9 were announced at NRF, not as part of the program, but as kind of the technical integrations. And then at this event, we're announcing the program that kind of surrounds this whole thing. Let me give you a little bit of a sense of what it's about. It's not just another program with people who sign up. It's actual, real technical integrations that are demonstrated through a capability that we call Commerce Composer. And we demonstrated this for the first time at National Retail Federation Show. And Commerce Composer is a capability where ISV companies, or SIs, should they choose to build assets, but they have to build real code assets, build add-on functions, in a sense apps, that can be plugged into our WebSphere Commerce product along with our products in the enterprise marketing management portfolio like IBM Digital Marketing Optimization. All of these things can now be plugged in, and a business user, for example a merchandiser who would be using the tools, would be able to decide that they wanted to use, for example, Bloomreach organic search function. And they would be able to drag a Bloomreach widget from a palette. We have predefined these palettes. People can pick their own pictures if they want, but they then do the work, the ISVs do the work to actually wire these widgets into their own infrastructure. If it's as a service, they've got to wire them into an as a service call, a RESTful API, or they wire them into something that would have to be installed at the client's environment. But from our perspective, it's completely RESTful API. And completely captured by this physical widget on the screen, or I should say, virtual widget on the screen. It's a representation of the capability. You drag it onto a palette that now becomes part of the design of your page in a e-commerce implementation, instead of the days, weeks, months of technical work that it would normally have taken to integrate these capabilities into your e-commerce capability. This allows a merchandiser or a marketeer to quickly change the nature of their e-commerce sites at a pace that we think is very relevant to what's being done today. We expect by the Smarter Commerce Summit in May to have over 40 of these partners on board. We're not sure all of them will have passed technical certification by then. We expect to have at least 40 working towards technical certification. We have 13 that have now passed, and I think 9 are represented actually at this show in one way or another. Either they are actually here, or we have a systems integrator representing them and showing what they've done with them. So we're pretty excited about this program.
It's a new kind of middleware for commerce. No?
Exactly. And
the ISVs build these kind of widgets.
Yep, and we have found ISVs able to build them in 2 to 4 weeks. We can actually demonstrate. We did something that's going up on YouTube soon. We actually demonstrated with one of our partners the ability to create one in about an hour and a half. Wow. Now, it didn't have a heck of a lot of function. So, it's not that exciting a one, but it actually integrates into the page. It was actually a weather widget. And, it allowed you to integrate a weather widget into the page very quickly. And the actual ability to do this is much more on the ISV side than on our side. The technical effort to actually integrate it, we've done all that work. We've provided them the plugins and the APIs to do so. We've provided them the graphical tools to do so, and it's just for them to make sure that their own APIs are properly expressed.
Yes, thank you.
Let me pause for a second so I make sure I'm responsive. So I can go back to some of your questions around kind of Ginny's area, or I can kind of go deeper in some of these areas.
Yeah, if you want to touch on Ginny, that's fine, but I don't want to capitalize on what everybody wants to talk about.
We'll see what else. Who else has a question? No questions?
In the worldwide basis, these partners will be from everywhere. Or
the ISVs that we're working with. Realistically, right now, I would say about 75% of them are U.S. That's probably representative of just the dominance of fairly good scale software vendors. We have a couple that are European. I'm trying to think where Fluid is based. Fluid is a U.S. company, I believe. I'm not even sure where some of them are actually based. I don't think about that too often. We have a couple of small firms in Israel. I can't release their names yet that we're working with that have some interesting and creative capabilities that we'd like to include. Like, for example, we got, when IBM bought Worklight, that was an Israeli company out of Haifa. That is not relevant to this, but we have found some strong innovation out of that area. So we're looking for some of those companies to step up as well. I don't have any Asian companies signed up yet, but we're open to companies from all over the world. And there's certainly no language barriers. Our core product, Web Secure Commerce, is translated into 17 languages, and the tooling that we're referring to is fully translated into 17 languages. So, any product that can work. We probably wouldn't bring a company in that hadn't gotten their product globalized, because I don't really want products that are limited to specific markets. I want products that are global in nature. But if they're serving a global market and they're from overseas, that's great.
Do you see in the future some Watson technologies will be integrated with these kind of things?
That's a great question. Fluid, as a matter of fact, just demonstrated at the National Retail Federation show a product. I wish I remembered what they called it. I think they called it something like Watson for Client Engagement. But you can look it online. Go look up on YouTube Watson North Face, the retailer of ski clothes and things. Watson North Face and Fluid. Put those three terms in, it'll pop right up on YouTube. And it's a fantastic implementation in an e-commerce context. It is not yet in our Commerce Composer plugin. Because frankly, I think that they're not quite ready to bring it to market yet. But it shows the
path.
It shows the path, and I'll just describe for a moment what they actually have done. They, and you can see this on YouTube. They actually have a person coming online and typing in, "I'm interested in going on a climbing trip to Patagonia. What equipment do I need?" Now, typically, if you go to a site, you would pull down a faceted search for sleeping bags or this. It's not the nature of this at all. It's not pulling down a structured search. It's telling them about your intent. And then as you are saying this, actually this was written, but we can certainly do it spoken as well. As you're saying this, the commerce page is updating automatically. So it's saying, tell me about products that are appropriate for a climbing trip, a mountain climbing trip to Patagonia. And suddenly all this stuff that was on the page that you first landed on is refreshed with material that is relevant to that particular type of activity. Then you continue your dialogue with Watson. You say, I'm interested in these particular sleeping bags. Are any of them appropriate to climbing Mount so-and-so? I forget the name of the mountain. Fitzroy, I think it says in the thing. I don't know what that is. And it says, yeah, and Watson responds and says, yes, we think you should look at this sleeping bag, and the site is changing as it's talking back to you. It's very cool.
I'm sorry, is this a live real application?
Yeah, absolutely. At NRF it was done live. The YouTube one is just a movie of that.
Oh, okay, but the site is not live.
No, I don't think that North Face has actually brought it live.
How far away is North Face from
I'm not certain.
How far away are we from that type of...
There's nothing technically preventing us from doing that now. There's nothing technically. It works. I think right now maybe it's the commercials that are being discussed. I'm not close to that particular discussion between North Face and Fluid and us, but it's very exciting to see the art of the possible there. So I'm glad you asked that question. There's some other things that we're doing with Watson as well in other parts of my portfolio, but they're less relevant to our partner discussion, so I won't get into those right now. One of the things that, of course, the Watson team did, and Ginny may have referred to this, now that we've split Watson off into a separate business for IBM, they've actually launched a venture fund. I think it's a $100 million fund, as I recall. And we are strongly looking for new creative applications of Watson technologies combined with other things that we can do and with creative input from the channel community. So it's a great opportunity for the channel community to step up with some great ideas.
But that's not part of what the scope of what you do, though.
Well, the North Face demo is very much within scope. Other things that Watson might do could be within scope or out of scope. Because remember, my product, Web Secure Commerce, is is how those catalog pages are being displayed. So it's very relevant to us, and we're pretty excited about getting it to be part of the overall program as well in Commerce Composer. It might not actually fit the traditional Commerce Composer because the traditional Commerce Composer gives the ISV control through the widget over a certain piece of real estate on the screen. You control this real estate. You do with this real estate what you need to. If you're in Vodo, you're showing videos. I don't mean you're in control. Obviously, the retailer's in control. But the retailer's using Vodo technologies to display videos, rich content on the site. If it's Fluid, it might be again, other forms of rich content. The Watson's going to need to take a little bit more control of the page than that. So our integration to it might not actually be through Commerce Composer, but that's TBD right now. Okay. Keep going, guys.
Questions? No.
There are certifications to this portfolio. The investment is huge for the partner.
Actually, the investment's not huge for the partner. The typical person months that we've seen a partner spend with us on the Ready for Smarter Commerce program and by the way, the certifications are still underway. We have done the initial launches with kind of, if you will, hand-built certifications. We've handcrafted each of these to make sure they were ready. We're standardizing them now. And as of the release of the program, which comes at this event, we actually have some standard levels of certification in the program now. But we know what it takes to get to those because we just did 14 of them. And in those, no one, as far as I can tell, whether it be Bazaar Voice or Pluck or Envoto or Fluid or Bloomreach, I didn't see any of them spend more than maybe 6 man-months, a couple of people for a couple of months. That was the most I saw anybody spend. This is not a particularly onerous activity. Because at the end of the day, these companies generally are used to providing solutions to e-commerce sites. That's their business. They just have been used to being wired in through a very heavy services effort. And generally, that hasn't really been their responsibility. If you're a Fluid, for example, Fluid has an offering, does things very similar to, for example, Scene 7 from Adobe. In many ways, I think more powerful. And Fluid is going into some new areas as well. But many, many e-commerce sites use Fluid today. How did they use them? Let's imagine they were using Webster Commerce and Fluid swatching today, where you get the ability to change the color of a product, to rotate a product, things like that. Those are traditional Fluid capabilities. An SI, whether it be IBM Global Services or whether it be one of our SI partners or any SI that the client might have chosen, actually did hard coding, wiring of those two products together in a services effort. So the work that a Fluid needs to do that is nil. They just have to expose the appropriate integration points. But we've said, let's not turn this into a services effort. Let's not make the client spend man-months or man-years of effort to wire all these things together at Marks & Spencer, at Abercrombie & Fitch, at all these many, many clients that have implemented our technologies. When historically the process they've done is to spend money for systems integrators to do that. We believe that it's much more incumbent upon us to deliver those integrations pre-built. And with this program, we can provide a host of pre-built integrations that do not require the systems integrators to spend time on. That means they can spend time on more value-added activities like the design of the site and making sure that the design of the personalization approaches and the marketing approaches of the site, abandoned cart remarketing, things like that. That's where we believe our systems integrators should be spending their time, not on wiring. And the more we can wire these things together for them, the more we add value to our clients and we believe to our integration partners.
No. I'm sorry I kicked the table.
No.
Okay. Question?